In the heart of southern Africa, during a time of immense turmoil and change, a legend was forged in blood and fire. This is the story of a man who rose from outcast to king, a visionary who built an empire, and a warrior whose name would echo through history. Shaka Zulu. Our story begins in the late 18th century, a time when dozens of small Nguni chiefdoms dotted the landscape of what is now South Africa. Life was a constant struggle for resources, with clans frequently clashing over grazing land and water. Into this world, around 1787, a boy named Shaka was born. His birth was scandalous. He was the illegitimate son of Sinzanga Kona, the chief of a small clan called the Zulu, and Nandi, a woman from the Lengeni clan. Their union was not sanctioned, and from his first breath, Shaka was marked as an outsider. Growing up, Shaka and his mother Nandi faced relentless persecution. They were ridiculed, ostracized, and eventually exiled from Sinzanga Kona's kraal. This early life of hardship didn't break Shaka. It hardened him. He endured bullying and humiliation, but within him, a fire of ambition and a thirst for respect began to burn. These formative years of struggle were the anvil upon which his iron will was forged. He learned to be self-reliant, to observe, and to wait for his moment. Forced to wander, Nandi and the young Shaka eventually found refuge with the Mfaithwa, a powerful confederation led by the wise and ambitious chief Dingiswayo. This was the turning point. Under Dingiswayo's mentorship, Shaka blossomed. He wasn't just another young man. He was a prodigy. He excelled as a warrior, displaying unparalleled bravery, physical strength, and a keen strategic mind that set him apart from his peers. Dingiswayo recognized Shaka's potential. He saw not just a fighter, but a future leader. It was in the Mfaithwa army that Shaka began to revolutionize warfare. At the time, combat was highly ritualized. Warriors would stand at a distance, hurling long, flimsy throwing spears called assegais at each other. It was often more of a show of bravado than a decisive battle. Shaka saw this as inefficient and wasteful. He developed a new weapon, the ikwa. This was a short, broad-bladed stabbing spear, named for the sound it supposedly made as it was withdrawn from an enemy's body. The ikwa required close-quarters combat, a brutal, face-to-face style of fighting that was unheard of. To wield this deadly new weapon, Shaka needed a new kind of soldier. He drilled his warriors relentlessly, forcing them to march barefoot for miles over thorny terrain to toughen their feet. He introduced a larger, more resilient cowhide shield that could be used not just for defense, but to hook an enemy's shield and pull them off balance. But his most brilliant innovation was tactical. He created the buffalo horns formation, or the umpi. The main fighting force, the chest, would engage the enemy head-on. Two flanking horns, composed of the fastest warriors, would encircle the enemy, trapping them. Finally, a reserve force, the loins, would sit behind the lines with their backs to the battle, ready to be deployed to exploit a weakness or plug a gap. This system was disciplined, lethal, and devastatingly effective. In 1816, Shaka's father, Sinzanga Kona, died. With the backing of the powerful Dingiswayo, Shaka returned to the small Zulu clan. He seized the chieftainship, eliminating his rivals and consolidating his power. The once tiny Zulu clan was now his to command. He immediately began transforming his people into a formidable military machine, implementing the radical new tactics he had perfected. 2 years later, Dingiswayo was killed by his rival, Zwide of the Ndwandwe clan. The Mfaithwa Confederation crumbled, creating a massive power vacuum. This was Shaka's moment. The Ndwandwe, under Zwide, were the dominant power in the region, and a collision course with Shaka's rising Zulu was inevitable. The clash came at the Battle of Cockley Hill in 1818. Shaka was vastly outnumbered, but he had the advantage of terrain and superior tactics. He positioned his forces on the hill, using the landscape to his advantage. As Zwide's massive army charged, Shaka's disciplined impis held their ground. He used his buffalo horns formation to perfection, encircling and annihilating segments of the Ndwandwe force. It was a stunning victory against impossible odds and announced the arrival of a new power in southern Africa. The Zulu kingdom was born. Over the next decade, Shaka embarked on a relentless campaign of conquest. Chiefdom after chiefdom was either absorbed into his growing kingdom or utterly destroyed. Those who submitted were integrated. Their young men were conscripted into Shaka's age-grade regiments, or Amabutho, breaking old clan loyalties and forging a new, unified Zulu identity. Loyalty was no longer to a local chief, but to the king, to Shaka himself. He built a centralized state with a standing army of over 40,000 warriors. He established a network of military kraals across his territory, ensuring rapid deployment and control. He was an absolute monarch, a brilliant administrator, and a ruthless tyrant. Disobedience was met with death. He ruled through a combination of fear, respect, and a shared sense of Zulu nationalism that he himself had created. This period of conquest, known as the Mafeking, or the Crushing, had a profound and devastating impact on the entire region. It created a domino effect of violence and mass migration as displaced tribes fled from the path of the Zulu army, leading to widespread conflict and social upheaval across southern Africa. But Shaka's reign was not to last forever. His methods grew increasingly brutal, especially after the death of his beloved mother Nandi in 1827. Grief-stricken, Shaka plunged his kingdom into a period of forced mourning. He ordered that no crops be planted and no milk be used for a year. He decreed that any woman who became pregnant would be executed, along with her husband. Thousands of his own people were killed for not displaying sufficient grief. This tyranny created deep resentment. His power, once built on respect and military genius, now rested on a foundation of terror. His half-brothers Dingaan and Mylangana saw their opportunity. They conspired with the trusted advisor of Shaka's, a man named Mabopa. In September 1828, while Shaka was meeting with a delegation, his assassins struck. Dingaan, Mylangana, and Mabopa ambushed him, stabbing him repeatedly with their spears. The great warrior king, the man who had revolutionized warfare and built an empire from nothing, died in a pool of his own blood, betrayed by his own family. His final words were a chilling prophecy to his brothers. "You think you will rule this land, but I see the swallows that will come and rule over you." He was referring to the white settlers, whose presence was growing on the coast. Shaka Zulu's legacy is complex and fiercely debated. Was he a visionary nation-builder who unified a people and created a powerful identity? Or was he a bloodthirsty tyrant whose conquests led to the deaths of countless people? The truth, as it often is, lies somewhere in between. He was a military genius on par with Alexander the Great or Napoleon. He transformed a small, insignificant clan into the most powerful indigenous empire in southern Africa. The Zulu kingdom he created would go on to famously challenge and even defeat the British Empire decades after his death, a testament to the military system and warrior spirit he had forged. But his methods were undeniably brutal. The Mafeking he unleashed reshaped the demographic and political landscape of the entire subcontinent, causing immense suffering. Yet, from this chaos, new states and new identities were also formed. Shaka's story is more than just a tale of conquest. It's a story about power, ambition, innovation, and the brutal realities of nation-building. It is the story of a man who, against all odds, rose from the dust to touch the sun, and in doing so cast a long, dark, and magnificent shadow over the pages of history. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the life of Shaka Zulu. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into history's most epic tales. See you next time.